This is Year of the Cicadas. It's a virtual reality experience about my life after my 6-year-old son died and what it's meant to live with grief over time. The story takes place over 7 scenes. My daughter's voice opens the first scene. She's singing a song she wrote and recorded in 2019 on her phone. And the interview coming from the bike radio is with Dr. Gene Kritsky, the world's leading expert on periodical cicadas.
I was actually on an upper story deck at tree level, and to paraphrase a friend of mine, I was up there with the cicadas, hoping they'd accept me as one of their own kind.
We had the idea of having the audio come from the radio on the bike so that it could layer on top of the ambisonic recordings of the cicadas that fully surround the player. We wanted the audio to be just as important to the story as the narrative itself. This scene sets up the story by giving the player information about the setting. It's Bloomington, Indiana, in the spring of 2004, and the 17-year Brood 10 cicadas have just emerged. The scene also allows the player to interact with cicadas. They can put their hand out, let a cicada land on it, and pull it close to their ear to hear the unique sound of one individual cicada. We wanted the player to be curious about them, as they are woven throughout the story both visually and within the soundscape. The narrator, which is me, ends the scene and starts the story. A few weeks after I buried my son, the cicadas emerged in our town, millions of them, in his graveyard. And I spent a lot of time at his gravesite during that time, and the sound completely surrounded everything. And I couldn't stop thinking about them. I couldn't stop thinking about how they would come back in 17 years, but my son would still be gone. And what did that mean for me? Who would I be in 17 years if I was no longer Cody's mom? And that experience became the foundation for this story. The cicadas are used throughout the experience as a way of thinking about how time moves forward and how grief changes. In this scene, the cicadas are loud and intense, enveloping the player as they're instructed to shoo cicadas off the headstones. Because this is actually what I did in those weeks after his death. The cicadas are recorded using ambisonic audio during the actual 2021 emergence, so they exist as a full 360 sound field. As the player moves, the sound moves with them. And in this scene, the emotional intensity of the cicadas is felt in both the audio and in the story. This scene is meant to feel raw and real because it's the beginning of a long journey through loss and grief. Here is an example from the scene. I think spring is the cruelest season for the bereaved. While everything around me was coming back to life, my world was falling apart, and I just wanted to stay in the cold grayness of March. I felt like spring was mocking me. In this scene, the player's walking down a hospital corridor, leaving the hospital for the last time, pushing a wagon with Cody's belongings in it. The drawings on the wall are real and were made by his classmates at his school. Here is an example of a scene.
Everything happens for a reason.
Be thankful you had him as long as you did.
At least he isn't suffering anymore.
He's an angel now.
Try to focus on the happy memories.
He was too precious for this
God
world.
never gives us more
Everything
than we can
happens
bear.
for a
Be thankful you
reason.
had
At
him.
least he isn't suffering
Be
anymore.
thankful you had him.
Everything happens for a
At least
reason.
he
God
isn't
never
suffering
gives us
anymore.
more
At
than we
least
can
he
bear.
isn't
Focus on
suffering
the happy
anymore.
memories.
At least he
Everything
isn't
happens
suffering
for a
anymore.
God never
reason.
gives
At
us
least
God
he
never
isn't
gives us
suffering.
more than
At
we
least
can
he isn't suffering. At least he isn't suffering.
The overlapping voices are things people said to me after he died. These layered voices are intentional, creating a dense soundscape that builds pressure and almost feels chaotic, like the cicadas. This is another example of how audio helps tell the story. This scene is based on a real tradition. Here, the player places ornaments on the tree as I talk about the difficulty of those first few years after Cody's death. I also talk about how even now, many years later, holidays are still difficult, But it's also about creating tradition and finding ways to connect to Cody, like how my mother still sends him a new train ornament every year. The artist recreated the real ornaments that are in the experience. I love this scene the most. The music was created by my dear friend and brilliant composer, Dr. Andrew Shartman, a professor of music at the New England Conservatory. The soundscape makes me feel like I'm outside, in the snow. I feel alone and isolated here, and my movements are slow and intentional. Because I feel this way in real life when I hang Cody's ornaments. It's my special time to be with him and my memories of him. There is no rush. The final ornament that is placed is my son and daughter singing, my greatest holiday treasure. Here is an example from the scene. What means the most to me is when people come by and they notice. They see the ornaments and the trains and they ask. And I get to say his name out loud. I get to tell a story, share a memory. And for that one beautiful moment, Cody is alive again. This scene is about a moment with my younger brother, who picked wildflowers for me during a particularly difficult time not long after Cody died. He put them on my kitchen counter with a note that said, "I thought some daisies might cheer you up," which were lyrics from a song by the Eels that we both really loved. The mechanics are simple. Pick flowers and put them in the vase. The Eels song plays on the radio at the end of the story. We received a copyright to use the song. This meant everything to me. We intentionally play the song from the radio to keep with the feel of the game. My daughter's song, which was recorded on an iPhone, didn't have the same quality as a studio-recorded version of a popular song like Daisies of the Galaxy. So our solution was to give both songs the same analog feeling of being played on a radio. This scene is quieter, more meditative. The cicadas are still present, though they're not as noticeable. But I will never forget those flowers and that perfect handwritten note.
I'll pick some daisies from the flower bed of the Galaxy Theater while you clear your head. I thought some daisies might cheer you up.
There are two more scenes to this story. A scene that takes place in the graveyard in the fall, and a final scene that returns the player to the cemetery in the spring, 17 years later, when the cicadas return again. This scene is about connection and finding meaning in tragedy. It's about maintaining a relationship with the deceased and how I'm still Cody's mom even after death. The cicadas feel different now. Their intensity has shifted. They feel welcoming, a reminder that death does not end a relationship. The story is mine, but the experience belongs to my entire team. Mel Bartle created the most beautiful artwork for the game, and I'm forever grateful for her vision. Andrew Shartman created the soundscape and original music. My husband and his team, Preview Labs, created the gameplay. And my best friend, Dr. Asher Marks, who is a pediatric neuro-oncologist, co-wrote and directed the experience with me, providing me with important insights as a pediatrician who unfortunately witnesses firsthand families that lose children to cancer. Thank you.